where we share our stories about how we overcame past trauma and where we are now. Welcome to the Queens Talk, Queens. Hello, everybody. I am Leslie from Brown Girls Embrace, and tonight we have Jamesia, and we are going to talk about self love, healing our bodies, affirmations, and all that good stuff. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let's bring Jamesia into the room.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
How are
Leslie.
you?
I'm great.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How was your day?
It was good. It was busy. It was productive, but it was good. So I'm grateful. How about you?
Good. Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into this conversation. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what's your name and where you're from.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jamesia Monroe. I'm a motivational holistic health coach. I'm an ancient Egyptian yoga teacher or a Kemetic yoga teacher. And I'm all about health, wellness, and good vibes. I am from
Yeah.
New Jersey. I am from South Jersey, and I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. I was trying to
Yeah.
pick up your accent, couldn't quite figure out where it was from. But
I don't really have one though. I don't think I
yeah,
do. Are you from up
I
north? I get up north vibes from you.
really what's up your vibes?
Okay, maybe like I get so I'm from New Jersey, so I get kind of like maybe Connecticut, Jersey, not Jersey, like
Uh,
Philly, something somewhere DC,
yeah,
Virginia, Maryland. Yeah.
yep, for sure. The DMV.
Okay,
I'm from Maryland.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. My
I didn't know
sister,
what our vibe was because I feel like we don't really have an accent, but we do. But I don't know.
very much
What you
so.
say
My
yourself?
sister's in Maryland. Other sister's in Virginia. I just got back from Maryland last weekend, so yeah.
Okay, what part?
Dang, is it Hanover? Are you familiar with that area? They were in the
Oh, okay.
military.
My family's from Handover. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, literally there. So
Yeah.
that's my sister. Yeah, and
Okay.
my other sister is in she went to Norfolk. She lives in Norfolk or
Okay.
Virginia Beach.
Yeah, I definitely. I know
Hmm.
people that live there too. Okay. So
Yeah.
before we get started with the yoga instructor and the holistic coach, take us back to how it all got started and where we are today with your brands and your platform. So can you rewind for a little bit and tell us all how it got started?
Yes. Okay. We can go back as far as you want to go.
How far
so
you want to take us?
I want to, talk about like my self-love journey, like from the beginning. So I come from a military family. Okay, so I'm from New Jersey, South Jersey, Fort Dix. Grew up in that area, 30 minutes from Philly. For those of you who don't know that area, and grew up in a strict household. And my parents are from the dirty, dirty South, from North Carolina, and so kind of grew up in that household where, and this is just prevalent in Black families all around, like you're not able to truly like express yourself. At least that's my experience. Not being able to be all of you. You kind of the growing up in the do as I say, not as I do. Stay in a child's place, that type of vibe. And
Mhm.
so what I've learned on my self-love journey is that I didn't get the love that I desired growing up in the household, because I grew up in a household where your needs are taken care of, and it's not necessarily an emotional type of family. It's just more so like, you got clothes on your back, food on your table, you got shelter, you're good, do good in school, and we good. But the emotional aspect wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
And so, but what I've learned, and not to blame my parents, it's just generations passed down curses. I say generational trauma, curses, what have you. But what I've learned was that my parents were raised on survival. So they
Mhm.
only know what they know. So they passed that down to raise us on survival, but not necessarily love. And I had to learn that on my self-love journey. So what I've learned was I learned to perform for love, so because I realized that was the only way that I would get the type of love that I desired. So what does that look like? It looks like excelling in school. It looks like, overachieving. It looks like neglecting my needs and wants and being there for others. And that bled into my adult relationships and other relationships down the line, work relationships, romantic relationships, friendships. I ended up being that people pleaser because, my needs were never met because I didn't believe that my feelings mattered.
Mm,
So, long story short, went through that phase of going through different relationships and, looking for love outside of myself. And in turn, what I've learned was, I talk about like spiritual aspects of health and wellness as well. When that generational trauma is passed down, we hold our trauma in our womb area, in men
mm,
and women. And, when our forefathers, are raised on survival and they go through traumatic experiences and nobody has healed those traumas, you're just going to continue to pass it down until someone break those generational curses. And so for me, that trauma and that wound of people pleasing and, not being able to express yourself and all of the things that we do now in society where we embrace self-love way more than our parents did back in the day, we hold those emotions in our womb. And for women, especially for Black women in America, all of the things that we deal with, the abuse and, microaggression, macroaggression, and pay inequality and the stresses of the world. And, we are portrayed to be as the bottom of the barrel in society. And that's just the reality of the matter. So dealing with all of that, being Black in America, Black women in America, holding those emotions in and not being able to express it, it causes us to experience womb issues. And as for me, I dealt with non-cancerous cysts on my ovaries.
mm,
And my mother, she experienced, womb issues as well. However, that was just passed down to me as well. And so from an emotional, energetic experience, because of those traumas were never taken care of on a spiritual level, I experienced the same womb issues that my mother and mother's mothers experienced as well until
mm.
I broke that generational curse. And I'm going to stop right there and, see if you have any questions in that regard.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking us on that journey. And I wanted to go back to when you said you were looking for love at a place where was kind of disciplinary, a disciplinary household. My household was kind of the same, and it's like a lot of the millennials were millennials,
Yeah,
and we love therapy, but they don't like therapy. And it's
facts.
like we went through trauma, and they like, well, I gave you the best life, I could give you, and I did the best I can. But emotionally, we felt like you could have been there a little bit more for us. And I
Very
used to
much.
be mad, you know. What'd you say?
No, I said very much so.
Oh yeah. So I used to be mad and be like, well, why wasn't you there? How come you did something? You were proud of me, and because they wasn't. So like you said, it's generational. Like they only can do what they know. And
Mhm.
I'm happy that we're in a space now of the self-love season where we can love ourselves and show others love and empower one another. But back in the 90s, it was critical. Like you had to kind of be perfect. But our generation is like, just be the best version of yourself.
That's
Because
it.
what is perfect? And it's
Ooh.
crazy that it's like how, like, because I was watching, I'm gonna watch Teen Mom too. And it's like all the girls on Teen Mom, they love therapy. And their mom was like, I don't know why she loves therapy so much. It's like, we do love it. It's just like therapeutic for us because it's like we're always searching for that compassion, or that mother's love, or that father's love, or just a warm embrace. And we had to start learning ourselves. So I appreciate you for breaking the cycle and figuring out what's wrong with you, because a lot of Black women get cancer, and who
Mm.
knows where that stems from. Maybe because of the toxic relationships, or maybe because of the things that's going on mentally, that's causing our bodies to be full of toxins and hormones and everything like that.
Yeah, I want to touch on something you said about like, the mothers. Oh, my earring that came out. About
It's
the
okay.
mothers. So like I grew up with an emotionally unavailable mother.
Hmm.
So that plays a lot. So when I talk about the sacral chakra, because that is connected to the relationships that we have with others and with our mothers. So, you know, my relationship with women had to be repaired, and it's still in a state
Mm,
of being repaired, and which
mhm.
I'm embracing more than ever now these days. But that plays a major part in your womb as well. So if
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What did you mean by your relationship with women?
Because I didn't have the best relationship. So I'm not sure if you ever heard this before. So your mother is your first relationship that teaches you how to have relationships with others, and it teaches how to
Mm.
have a relationship with yourself. So
Oh
if your
wow.
first relationship with women is your mother, if you're not having the best experience with your mother, then you're going to struggle and have difficulties having relationships with other women down the line. And so for
Wow.
me, that was my big that was my
It makes
biggest
a
thing.
lot of sense. I
Yeah.
never thought about it but it makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's a real thing. And so because that relationship was distorted, I didn't trust women. I
Mhm.
didn't, allow myself to be vulnerable and open and all of me. So that feminine energy within me. So everything ties together. Everything happens for a reason. Because I grew up in that militant, strict family household, I lean more on my masculine energy than my feminine energy because the feminine energy was
Mm,
already wounded. It was already wounded
mm,
to begin with. So it's like by natural like laws and how everything worked out, being in my masculine energy was always comfortable for me because the feminine
right.
energy was non-existent and I didn't know how to operate in that. And so that's where a lot of the damage happened in my relationships, down the line and later in my adult years, because I didn't really embrace my feminine energy. So I didn't know how to tap into that type of energy that's supposed to bring balance within myself. So it's like when you're not balanced within yourself, you're not going to be balanced within the relationships you have in your life. So yeah.
I agree. I totally now I'm thinking about back about my life. Like, hmm, that I'm glad you brought that out because it's something to think about.
Yeah.
So you talked about, you're healing your womb and all this stuff. Um,
Yeah.
what made you say, okay, I know you said that you start having problems with your ovaries. What made you say, I know you went to the doctor. So what happened when you went to the doctor and you found out what was going on with your ovaries?
Yes. So the brief story before I get into to answer that question. So prior to that, I was bleeding for 3 weeks at a time. So my
Mm,
menstrual cycle, I was always, so that means that I was always on my menstrual cycle. Like when I tell you always, like every holiday, every vacation, I was always on my menstrual cycle. It was exhausting, So nonetheless, in 2018, I found out that I had non-cancerous cysts on my ovaries. And
mm-hmm,
so they told me that as a procedure would needed to be done. I can't quite remember the name of the procedure, but it was just essentially where they would go in and like break up the cysts. And
mm-hmm,
I said I didn't want that. I asked them if there was a holistic route or an alternative way, and they told me no. Now,
mm-hmm,
deep down in my heart, I knew that there was another way. I didn't know the answer, but I knew that there was
mm-hmm.
another way.
Yeah.
So, so I was determined, after that I left that and I was like, okay, I was excited because I finally could put a name to what I was experiencing. So come to find out that I would have my menstrual cycle, then that would stop, and then my cysts would bleed on their own. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was like that's why it was causing me to have these long menstrual cycles and energy levels drained, not feeling my best self, not feeling like a woman, all of that because being in relationships and I'm always on my menstrual cycle. So that was a issue. So dealing with depression, was not new to me. So yeah.
Wow, I'm sorry you had to go through that. So you said you decided that you didn't want to have that surgery. What
Mhm.
made you say, let me figure out, like, okay, because you didn't want, so you had to figure out, like, how was I going to solve this problem on my own?
Oh yeah. See, for me, like one thing when I set my mind to something, I'm a bull.
Mm,
Like I'm a bull
yeah,
about what I want. So I was like, okay. So I told myself, I don't care how long it will take me. I'm gonna find the answer and I'm gonna figure it out.
right.
That's what I said to myself. Like I'm like, okay, they're telling me that I had, and I know, like it was just the innate feeling. Like my everything inside of me said that's not true. I know that
Yeah.
there's a holistic way to get rid of these. I don't know what it is right now, but I'm willing to dedicate the rest of my life. That's how serious I was. Like, I don't want anybody going in and try to cut anything out of me. So I said, however long it takes, then, that's just what it's going to be. So I ended up, I was got my master's in nutrition education, learning
Mm-hmm.
about food and all of that. I deepened my studies, I was already vegan, so just trying different vegan lifestyles, alkaline vegan, the transitional vegan was the first, raw vegan, just different types of veganisms and lifestyles. So yeah, and then I found the answer. And
Yeah.
that's a whole story within itself. So
Yeah. Okay. And everybody that's in the chat, I'm going to get to your comments. So continue to keep writing in the chat. And at the end, I will respond to the comments in the chat. But I want to address something about you took the time to do it. Not everybody takes time for themselves to figure out themselves. They go the easy and quick route of
yep.
get the surgery, get it done, and let's get it over with. But self care is an umbrella of different things. And it's taking time to get to know yourself and your body. So if you wouldn't have got a chance to know what your body needed, you would have did something that you didn't want to do. But self-care takes so much time, and I'm a type 1 diabetic. I have to, and everybody's diabetes looks different. Everybody's body is different and reacts different to different stuff. But I have to study my body so I can tell my doctor what I need, because the doctors are very intelligent, but they don't know your body the way you do. And sometimes they make mistakes. I remember one time I was in the hospital and they could not figure out what was wrong with me. But then I figured I had gas in my throat. That's why my throat was hurting so much. But they couldn't figure it out. They kept giving me Tums or something. I don't know, like something that's couldn't solve what I was feeling like a burning sensation in my throat. And they, for the life, it was just simple gas that was acid coming in my throat. But go ahead.
Because the Western society, I say this all the time, I preach this all the time, they're only taught to treat the symptoms and not the issue. So that is just the reality of the matter. That's why I'm, not saying don't go to the doctors or what have you. I'm just not, going to go. That's not my first route or choice. For me, I always lean on, ancient practices and what did my ancestors do? Because clearly they were able to figure it out without having, the doctors telling you that you have to do this. Every other society, they consider the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical aspect. But in the Western society, we leave that aspect out. So that's what there's a disconnect when it comes to treating the actual issue and not the symptoms.
I agree, because we have an African family friend and they never get sick. And it's because of the food that they eat. They eat a lot of garlic and they eat a lot of this and that, or ginger root, and they don't get sick. And I was just like, but my mind is, that's how we should eat. We should eat like garlics and ginger, and it's stuff that's naturally grown from the ground instead of the stuff that is contaminated with chemicals that's ruining our body. But we have to take the time to examine how our body is going to react to stuff. And if you don't take that time to figure out what is good for me, what I like, because it takes, self-care is not a simple fix. It's a journey for yourself, and it looks different for everybody else. So if you don't take the time to adjust and conform to your way of living that works best for you, so you can be the best version of you, then I don't know what's going to happen.
Listen, when I tell you, I did so many experiments on myself. Like when I tell you, I did not care. So it got to a point where it was literally a lifestyle. Like, I would always switch up. Let me try this. Let me try this. Let me eat this. I'm a researcher. Okay. That is my thing since I was younger. So like I would always research things, like where it was just second nature for me to like, okay, let me look up this. Like, what should I be eating? Okay. What can help, shorten my menstrual cycle? That's where like the womb wellness came about as well, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so nonetheless, so doing so many experiments on my body, just testing out different things, because again, like I said, I was determined.
Yeah. What were some of the things you tried on your body?
Different foods. So it was literally, so like, so I would like research, okay, so how can you, eliminate menstrual cramps? Because I was dealing with menstrual cramps. I was dealing with painful cramps and long menstrual cycles. They were heavy. And then it was just like debilitating at sometimes, and then also dealing with the effects of not being on my menstrual cycle and dealing with like infections that way, bacterial vaginosis, because I
Mm,
was losing so much blood, and then also anemia, low iron. So it was like my energy levels were like, it was all bad, energy levels depleted, and then because I'm losing so much blood, that was the reason why the BV would come after the menstrual cycle, because of so much blood being lost, and all of that going on down there. So it was a lot. It was a whole journey. So for me, I felt like going vegan was a must, because of you get energy from eating fruits and vegetables. And again, I got my master's in nutrition education, and all I would learn about is, oh, this fruit will help reduce the risk of cancer, this will help reduce the risk of
mm,
cancer. And to me, so I was putting two and two together. I said, low key, high key, you might as well go vegan to help reduce
mm,
reduce the risk of cancer. But it's not just cancer, but it's other health issues as well, like heart
right.
disease. So
Mm,
and that is the number one killer in the United States. So yeah, especially
wow.
among Black Americans as well. So yeah.
Yeah. I always say, I'm a Christian. I always say that God created this earth and he had fruits and plants grown off the vineyards and the tree, and they survived. Adam and Eve survived off of the fruit, for us to, not for, us to be eating animal, all the time and killing animal and eating it, because, they have different bacteria in their body and we're putting it into our body. And who knows what we're eating, half the time when stuff is contaminated, killed. It was living, and But
Yeah.
let's go back to the menstrual cycle.
Okay.
Us as women, when we are on our cycle, I just was off. When we are on our cycle, I am so drained, depressed, sad. I don't know
Mhm.
all the different symptoms that I have. I am all of those. So I can imagine if you were on for 3 weeks and you were depressed for 3 weeks, and were you in pain? Did you cramp
Listen,
for 3 weeks?
just to interject, the depression was not 3 weeks because this was an ongoing thing. That was just a stage in my life, because think about it. I'm always bleeding, so it's like, and then it's like I'm always bleeding on every vacation and every
Mm,
holiday, and every time is to do time for me to do something. So it's like, oh, I can't get a break, and
mm-hmm.
then it was causing issues in my relationship. So
Yeah.
that's a big thing. And then it was causing my self-esteem to be lowered, because it's like, man, I didn't feel like a woman. I know I'm a woman, but like I just felt like there was something wrong with me, in which there was at the time, but it's just I couldn't embrace my womanhood, all of me.
Wow.
um but you said something, you asked the question. I apologize, can you repeat?
I forgot what it is.
Okay.
Let's go
Okay.
to the next question. But we talk about the self esteem. Now, you said
Yeah.
those things affected your self esteem as a woman, and I'm sure it affected your confidence. Am I feminine enough, or do I have some? I mean, when we're on our cycle, we insecurities like a mother. Like, we gotta, are
Sis.
we stinking? Are we spotting? Is our hygiene clean? Am I being feminine enough? Am I clean? Like, I can imagine like what it did to your self confidence. Why me? Where you? I know you were going through all those different things.
Absolutely. I had to wear pads and tampons at the same time. That's how much
Mm,
blood I was losing. That was my
wow.
norm. That was always my norm. It was like, all right, I gotta up on some tampons and some pads. So
Wow.
and then being insecure, not knowing, am I leaking through my clothes? At
Mm,
that. So yeah, it plays a toll, and especially being in a relationship. Let's just keep it
yeah.
100. Like, come on now. Like, all right, so you always on your menstrual cycle. So, initially it's like, oh, okay, like, are you just not into me? It's like, no, it's just, just keeping it 100. Like, this is just what I'm dealing with right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, that does cause your self-esteem to be lowered, because it's like, oh man, I can't even, show up in this way in a relationship, because I'm dealing with this, and then I'm not even feeling my best self. So dealing with those like different emotions, when that time
Mm,
of the month comes on, is, it could be stressful and very depressing. So
yeah.
yeah.
So let's segue into where we are now. I know you're
Yeah.
not. I know you experience the same things you did. Where are we now today with your health and your stomach and your womb and everything like that?
Yes. So I do want to tell the story leading up to how I got to this point. So this
Mhm.
is a story for sure. So just like everyone else, in 2020 is when the whole world flipped upside down, and it
For
did for me.
everybody.
Yes, the whole world.
Mhm.
And it did for me as well. So 2020, the year, everything just started off rocky. The year started off rocky. I was like on the verge of losing my job. It was like I was at that time I was working in corporate America. And my birthday comes around, and I just, had got back from Miami, had a great experience with the guy I was dating at the time. I got back 2 weeks later. My cousin, who was like a brother to me, I have a twin brother, and we considered him to be our third twin. He was our cousin, but we were all the same age. And so nonetheless, he passed away from a seizure.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
that was like, thank you. It was disheartening, and it still feels surreal because it's like, wow, like, so young, at a young age, passed away unexpectedly. And so that our family was dealing with that. That was a huge shocker. And so then coming back to work, and like I said, on the verge of losing my job, and all of the things happening within the guy I was talking to, we ended up splitting. The day I got back from my cousin's funeral, the pandemic hit. A couple days later, it was all of this
Mm.
was happening back to back to back. And then at the time, I was in my master's program, towards the end of my master programs, and I fell 3 weeks behind on that program because of all
Mm.
the things that I was dealing with. And then, just fast forward, all of this was happening. Pandemic hit, so now I'm in isolation dealing with this depression, behind on my master's program, just split with the guy that I went to Miami with, about to lose my job, so I'm fighting to stay afloat,
Right.
and then at the time, I was dealing with issues in my friendships, I just didn't feel appreciated. And then of course, like I said, the pandemic hit, and then we were at the height of the racial injustices around like that summertime. So it was just all of this was happening during this time frame. And so I realized that, I hit rock bottom, and it was like the first time in my life where I felt like, I just did not have it all together. I wasn't happy with myself, my life, and where I was, like, as a woman, because I'm still on the top out of all of everything that I mentioned. I'm still dealing with this menstrual cycle that's lasting for 3 weeks at a time. So it's
Mm.
like
Mm.
adding all of these things back to back to back. So what I realized after meditating one day, um, it was around June. Yeah, it was June time. I opened my eyes, and I was advised to go on a fast. So I was like, okay, I was led to go on a fast. So I was like, all right. But not only it wasn't a regular fast, it was a fast dedicated towards the chakras. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with chakras, they're just wheels of energy, and they make up our life force. And we all have them. They're our personal energies, our personal life force. And so, nonetheless, I went on this fast. And when I tell you, I had the most transformational experience I had in my entire life. During that fast, I experienced my greatest spiritual awakening. Now, I thought I was having an existential crisis, an ego death, an identity crisis, all in one. But in hindsight, I
Mm.
was having a spiritual awakening. And a spiritual awakening, for those of you who don't know, is just like you're just waking up to your reality. You're waking up to the things that you are unaware of. So, like on one of the days, I realized the role that people played in my life and the role that I played in their lives. And at the end of the day, I realized that people only treat you as far as you allow them to. So initially, I was blaming people, like pointing out. And but when you are having that spiritual awakening, all your fingers go in within. Your fingers go like this. They go within,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh no, no, no. You can't, nothing outside of you can dictate what's happening to you. Everything inside of you, everything points back to you. So for me, it was like, oh, well, this happened, or I was treated this way because I allowed it to. I never
Yes.
expressed I never expressed discomfort or my boundaries. So how would they know that that was something that was discomfortable or uncomfortable for you when you never expressed it to them? So you can't blame anyone outside of you. So it was like taking accountability like a mug, during that experience. That's on one day. Another day, I lied to you not. I went to the restroom and these crazy looking things came out of me. I Googled real quick before I got hype. I was like, okay, let me see, let me see. And I said, oh my gosh, my cyst came out of me. Now, mind you, I was recommended this fast by an elder of
Mhm.
mine. And yes, accountability. I was recommended this fast by an elder of mine, and he said that a colleague of his used it to eliminate her cyst. So I completely forgotten about it. So when I had that experience, when I tell you it was the happiest day of my life, I cried. I jumped
Oh,
up and
wow.
like I was in disbelief. I was like, oh my gosh, like literally, I was like this. I was like, oh my gosh, oh my
Oh,
gosh. And I was
wow.
jumping and jumping. I was crying. It was the happiest day of my life because I always get every time I get to this part, but I was I was just in so relieved because I finally found the answer. Yeah. So that was that experience. And then on another day, I experienced another level of peace that I never experienced before. I was meditating. And how I describe it, I know it sounds so surreal, but it felt like I was getting a warm, energetic hug at the soul level. It felt like love was just being poured into me and just poured. And I couldn't explain the feeling, but it just felt like my cup was being filled, during that time. And yeah, so at the end of that fast, I realized that was the first time in my life that I truly loved myself. I took
Oh.
it was because
Oh.
prior to the fast, I reached out to everyone and I said, you're not going to hear from me. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm just going to be fasting. So I fell off the face of the earth. That's what I say. I tell
Mhm.
people I fell off the face of the earth. So like I deleted my social media. I told everyone that I talked to on the normal basis that I'm just not going to be connected to my phone like that. I'm not. I just wanted to be in complete solitude. I wanted to be within myself. I wanted to look within. And yeah, so it was the first time I experienced self love,
Well,
and it felt so good. It felt so good. So yeah.
wow. Let me tell you that I want to cry myself when you said that when these things came off your body and you's like, it's finally out. It's finally gone.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that was surreal. Yeah. It
yeah,
feels,
oh my gosh.
and as a byproduct, my menstrual cycle lasted for 7 days. So that's just my normal now. And when I tell you, I'll take it. It may be long for some women still, but I'll
No, I
take
think
7.
I have 7 days myself.
Yeah, as
I have,
opposed to three
yeah,
weeks.
yeah. I'm happy. I'm okay with my 7 days. I mean,
Me
but I have
too.
like 3 days of crapping, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, and now I'm starting to learn. Hey Lita, it's my friend Lita. Yeah, she said it's powerful. Now that I'm
Yeah.
starting to learn my body, okay, I can say, okay, I'm in this phase of my cycle. I'm in the third phase of my cycle. I'm in this.
Yep.
The egg is about to burst. Like, and I
Yep.
feel it coming out, and I'm just like, I don't know how. Do you have any kids?
No, I do not. No.
I can now I know like how it is when mothers feel what their baby is doing or what something or the baby's about to come because he's like, oh, it's about to come. That's how I
Yes.
feel when the blood comes through my body. It's just like the eggs,
Yep.
the last part of the egg, like, up there it is. And it feels like a release. So I can imagine how you feel because you was going through 3 weeks of
Yes.
a cycle.
3 weeks.
Oh,
It got to a
I,
point where my family was like, anytime I would go visit or family, and they're like, "You always on your menstrual cycle," and I'm like, "Yeah, no." That was
yeah.
my norm. Like you're always like it was to the point where I had to have pads and tampons like at my sisters and house, and because it's like, oh yeah, we already know. Like it's like so yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate the part you said, where you finally started to love yourself.
Ooh,
And I
yes.
think that this pandemic has, for me too, for myself, I'm gonna speak for myself personally, and a lot of women who I speak to on the Queen's Talk, they say the pandemic was their realization of self love. Like, let me get into myself and realize what's going on with me. And for myself, when I started and I created Brown Girls Embrace, the
Yes.
crazy thing about it is I didn't want my friends to know. I didn't want my family to know. I wanted everybody else to know but them. And
Yeah.
I wanted this to be my escape. I wanted to be a place where I can go and connect. It felt like I was going on this retreat on the internet, finding women like me who looked like me
Yes.
and had a similar story as me. Um, but when I kept it away from them, um, they said, of course, on the internet, people see it. People see
Yeah.
your stuff and they started to notice. And the response I got from them was different than what I expected. I
Mm.
expected them to be like, well, why is she expressing herself like this? Or because I feel like I'm very misunderstood. So this
Oh.
platform allows me to express myself and connect with people who are like
Mhm.
me and who have the same mindset as me. Um, but I say all that to say is that I realized during that time that I cared way too much about what other people thought and not enough about what I thought. And I cared if they were going to laugh at me or they were going to gossip about me or screenshot me or whatever and
Yeah.
send it, or, all the insecurities were going through my head. But why am I giving my energy to people that don't make me happy, to a place where I don't feel loved,
A
you know?
word. Ooh,
So I,
sis.
I just I just wanted to really just I really wanted just to be myself on this platform. And that's why I don't really like to partner with people. I like to do my own thing because it takes a lot to just be yourself in this society and be happy and feel love. Because before the pandemic, things are just so hectic. Boom, 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 boom. Like money, 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 get it. And it's just like, okay, we needed to reset. And it's a blessing in disguise because my grandfather passed away from COVID, unfortunately, at the
Oh,
beginning of the pandemic. But and people I know loved ones passed away, but it
yeah.
also was a blessing because I was able to find my happiness and find a way to express what I wanted to do and where I belong. Because I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. I was just always in my own lane and
Man.
everything like that.
Sis,
So
when I tell
let's talk
you,
about.
I feel everything you just said. I just wanted to say that.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
Everything,
thank
yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, so let's talk about healing for Black women. So how did that get started, and how is that venture going?
So the fast, at the end of the fast, I said to myself out loud. Now, prior to the fast or in the midst of the fast, I didn't know why I was being led to like journals. So I had 5 different journals that I was journaling out of. But then I realized at the end, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to go through this so that I can teach others to do the same. So at the end of the fast, I was like, I want other people to feel this. Like my mind automatically thought about Black women because what we deal with in society, like we deal with so much, and it's like so much stress and pressures of the world is like on or upon our shoulders. And but I experienced a level of peace that I never experienced before, and I want that for our women because we're not at peace. We're not at
Mm,
peace in society, like as a
mm,
whole. No, if it one of us is none of us, it has to be
mm,
all of us. And I can say that we're not at peace, and we sometimes, or a lot of the times, we don't know how to even cultivate it. We don't even know where to begin. We don't know how to start. We don't even know where to find it. And so I believe that I was called and led to, sharpen my self-care and my self-development skills so that I can teach other women who look like me to do the same, because I
mm,
healed myself through that process. So I wanted to teach
mm,
others, because healing is not just physically, it's emotionally, it's spiritually, it's mentally. And so
mm,
you cannot have one without the other. In society, in Western society, they try to separate. We can't do that. Like, we have a therapist for our mental health, we have a doctor for our physical health, but we're leaving out that emotional, we're leaving out that energetic, spiritual health. Not necessarily like religious, but the spiritual health. We're
mm,
not focusing on that, because we have to know, okay, this emotion is linked to this. For
mm,
example, your anger is linked to your liver. So if
mm,
you are emoting anger, then you are damaging your liver. So you need to
mm,
know that there are specific foods that you need to eat so that you can bring balance into your body. So these things
mm,
are important, but the Western society doesn't teach us that, but other societies are aware of this. So that's why. So what I've done was I paired my nutrition education with I am also a yoga teacher, a comedic yoga teacher. So just like spirituality with health and wellness, just overall holistic health, and that's where I came to become a motivational holistic health coach. I kind of just put everything, all of my knowledge and wisdom together in my experiences, and that's how I own Community Yoga. It's a holistic health company, And then also Jamesia, the brand, is specifically for Black women, and the community yoga is for Black and underserved communities to teach them health and wellness, alternative health and wellness. So yeah.
Okay. So how did it start? Like, what is the beginning stages of starting your business? Like, okay,
Oh
let
yeah.
me, and I know that was nerve-wracking, us entrepreneurs starting a business on our own, leaving the corporate world to start a business. How was that?
It was nerve wracking. So I was already doing community yoga. That was always my part time. I've been doing that for years since well, officially 2018, but 2016 is when I became certified. But that was always my part time. So, I would work corporate and then teach on the weekends. That was always my schedule like that. And so that business evolved due to the pandemic. So I had to pivot. So I went from just being a yoga, ancient Egyptian yoga company, and I expanded into a holistic ancient Egyptian based company. So like we focus on mind, body, and spirit. So like uh, energetic, spiritual health, food, wellness, and all of that. And so, but what I've learned is I was trying to put to like I was like I want to help Black women. Like everything in my heart was like I want to help Black women, but I also want to help our community because we're at the higher risk for the diseases. And I learned that in my nutrition education program. It was disheartening to me. Every time I would go through each class and course, we were always ranked number one or at least at the top for the diseases that we would learn about. But the plot twist was not only were we ranked number one or at the top percent, the representation of Black nutrition educators were slim to none. So I'm
Oh
like
wow.
either one of 3 of 30 students on an online class. And I said, well, there's a problem. This is a problem because who's going to teach us? Like this was the norm. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
only just 2 of us. Sometimes it was 3 of us, and rarely it would be one. So I'm like, okay, so if the issues in our community and the representation is slim to none, I'm like, who's going to teach us? Who's going to educate
Mhm.
us?
Right.
Somebody has to do it. So like I took on that responsibility. But to answer your question, man, when I tell you, I got all of the signs to leave my corporate job and I was terrified. I said no. And when I tell you, when you do not listen and move in spirit, when I'm telling you, everything is going to like just keep pounding on you. It's going to get louder and louder, that noise. So when I tell you, like, I wasn't motivated and I kept running into issues and issues. And I'm like, I'm terrified because in logic, it says, no, how you going to do this? But in spirit, it's like, no, you're going to have to
Mhm.
trust. You got to know that you are divinely guided and protected in everything that you do. And you have to move when spirit says move. And so, you know what? I cried my eyes out, but I did it. My family was like, oh my gosh. Because I told myself, this is the thing. I know that words are powerful. And I told
Mhm.
myself when I got to that job, when I first started working there, I said, this is the last job that I will have. I've always
Mhm.
known since I was a younger girl, I always known that I'm not supposed to work for anyone. And even like just throughout life and people prophesizing and saying these things, like aside from them even saying that, in my spirit, I knew that I wasn't supposed to work for anyone. So I knew that every job that I had, I'm like, oh, I'm only going to be here for like a year or 2 years. And that's just how the jobs, like I would just switch jobs like draws. I'm going to keep it watching. But yeah, so nonetheless, because my spirit would start to become uneasy, and so I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go. So but I said before when I started that job, I said this is going to be my last job and then I'm going to work for myself. And then that knock came and I said, oh, I wasn't ready to answer the call, but I was like, I did say this is going to be the last one. The pandemic hit, so I was like, at least trying to thug it out until like I got laid off, because I was like, okay, we can get unemployment, do it that way. But it wasn't working that way. Spirit said, no, I
Mhm.
need you to move. Like, so I said, oh, okay. So, but when I tell you, this journey has been an experience that I would do it all over again, because I've experienced so many miraculous things that don't even sound like it's real, but it's real when you're obedient to the call. Everything shifts in your favor. Let's just say that.
Okay.
So yeah, so
Thank you.
here I am. I ended up branching out from trying to force the Black woman aspect in the community, and so I split. So I'm like, okay, let me focus on Black women for the Jamesia brand, and then the Black and underserved communities for community yoga. So that's how that came about.
Okay. So how do
Yeah.
so now that how long you been doing that?
Doing what? I'm sorry.
The yoga. Well, you said you've been doing the yoga for on part time, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
brand and being on your, like that's been like a year or two.
Since 2020.
Okay.
2020 August. Yep.
So do your coaching experience as a holistic coach, what are
Yes.
the responses you get when you are helping the other girls that like, wow, I didn't know it affected you like that?
So because I start with like this energetic spiritual health, because in community yoga we focus on like chakra energy healing, but all of that is connected to your mind, body, and spirit. So that is always like the number one, like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that this was connected to this. So it's like it's bringing awareness to people, like, oh, I have to heal certain aspects of me. So like I draw the dots in, like, okay, you're dealing with this health issue. For example, heart disease. That's the number
Hmm.
one killer in the United States. You're dealing with heart disease, but you know that that's linked to our heart chakra. So there's forgiveness, unforgiveness there. Like you have to forgive yourself and others. So it's
Hmm.
like connecting those dots, because again, other societies teach this, but the Western society doesn't. So I want to bring that awareness to our people. Like, hey, not only do you need to eat properly, but you also, if you can do that, but your issues may still reside, still come up because you're not forgiving yourself or anything from your past. So that's why you're going to continue to have these issues until you do the inner work. So this is like, that's like the eye opener for a lot of people, like, wow, and then just realizing that there are a lot of changes that they need to make. And it's not easy. Change is not easy, but you know, it's just a part of the process. So just, I would say the number one thing is always the awareness, like not connecting the dots for people. And so now that is something that they can work on moving
Yeah.
forward. Mhm.
Now let me tell you guys, Jamesia had this one reel where she had put lavender on her stomach, some hot boiling water, and she just rolled it on her stomach, and
Oh,
it felt like it felt like it felt good, and that it was going to take away the blood clots in your stomach if you're on your menstrual cycle. So whenever you get a chance, go to her page and check out her reels. And I want to, before we wrap it all up, because it's going on
oh
about an
yeah.
hour now,
Oh
and
wow.
let's talk about the affirmations of the day. What made you start doing these affirmations of the day? Because I love it. Like, hey, what the affirmations of the day is.
I'm telling you, that started off as a joke, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, you know what? For the month of December, like, I was like going over everything, like community yoga and my Jamesia brand page. And I said, you know what? For the month of December, I'm just going to do affirmations of the day. And I'm going to call the artists philosophers, and I'm going to call their songs poems. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I did it, I was doing it, and, I was just like, okay, this is cool, throwing it in there, like joking around, but people were taking to it. Like, like the words that I was saying, they were like motivational and inspiring, but they're like, oh man, that was good. And I was just like, oh, that was just a joke. But then, so I kept doing it, and I'm realizing like, oh, this is a thing, because people were like, grasping to it. And so I just kind of started doing that. And then it just started like taking off. Like it just started going like wildfire. So between that and the okra water that just went off on my page, like blew my page up like within 2 weeks.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah. So here
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah, the same thing with me. I haven't blown up or went viral or anything, but I told you, I told somebody I was doing Brown Girls Embrace because I wanted to do like a vlog because I was bored during the pandemic. I didn't want it to be this. Like I didn't want it to be the Queen's talk and the Shea
Yeah.
Butters and the this. It's kind of building. It's like something that you don't take serious. And I feel like
Right.
the pandemic has showed us to like stop taking life so serious and just do it because like you
Ooh.
said, you were playing with the affirmations of the day.
I sure was.
We were I was playing around with the Brown Girls Embrace. Like I didn't think I was gonna make it a real business. Like it wasn't gonna be nothing to me. But we take life too serious and we're too hard on ourselves. We think so hard. Like just relax and just do it. Be yourself. Like you don't have to be nobody else but yourself because we're making this harder than what it has to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So on that note, now that we talked about what would you tell your 15-year-old self today? What would you tell your 15-year-old self?
I would tell her a lot of things. I would tell her your feelings matter.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mhm.
would tell her it doesn't have to be perfect, just done.
Mhm.
And don't doubt yourself. You were right the first time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's kind of similar to what I would tell my 15-year-old self, is that it's okay to be yourself. Because I was always so opposite of everybody else. I'm gonna say different, but I was so opposite. But it's okay to be different. Like God created us in all different shapes, sizes, and forms and colors. Like
Absolutely.
brown is not just in one color; it's in several different colors, and it's everybody's perspective of life is different. And your your opinion and you matter, and you're worthy of self love and self care.
Very much so. I agree.
Yeah. Mhm. So last thing is, where can everybody find you on your social media platforms? Tell everybody what's your name and how they can get in contact with you.
Yes. So again, my name is Jamesia Monroe. You can find me at Jamesia Monroe, and that's James Iamonroe. So that is for Black women healing, Black women. You get the affirmations of the day, you get Womb Wellness Wednesday, and just me as a vibe. I'm just being myself, embracing myself on my journey. I've been experiencing several deaths and rebirths all of 2022. So I've finally gotten to a space where it's like, I am free within myself. And as you mentioned,
Mhm.
Leslie, like, being yourself, like navigating that throughout life and not feeling like you can be yourself. Listen, I've embraced all of me. I
Yes.
got all types of personalities. I got big energy, so and I'm okay. I used to try to dim my light and make myself small. I'm no longer doing that, y'all. So y'all gonna get what you
Yes.
gonna get at this point. So Jamesia Monroe. And then if you're interested in yoga, health and wellness and all of that, then you can find me at community_yoga. That's KEMUNITY_yoga. And so I do a lot more like food, real food videos and yoga videos and juicing videos on that page. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
And,
Do you
you
do
can
one?
email at info@jamesia.com if you have any questions or inquiries. So, yeah.
Okay. Do you do one-on-one coaching sessions?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay, good, good. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Jamesia, for joining us, and thank you for everybody who joined the chat.
Thank you.
D'Angela, Lita, Joy, thank you, everybody. I want to make sure I drop. Shout out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram. Both of us have Instagram accounts is right there on the screen. And thank you all. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.